Number 60 in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan is giving some very relevant advice, saying that if you are not somebody who can take sannyasa, as Madhusudana Saraswati would like to interpret it those days in that particular historical context, only the Brahmins were encouraged to take sannyasa, not others. And therefore, others most likely would continue to do their karmas, but with complete dedication to Lord Krishna, Bhagavan, whether it's Shiva or Durga or Kali or whatever. And then God, the Ishvara, will, with that Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, and he will liberate. And Bhagavan is making that promise that once you become Mat Chittaha, and then Mat Paraha. So I am the ultimate thing for you. You're absolutely not trying to, lose yourself in anything else. If you that sort of a mind, then of course you're going to get the benefit. You're going to get this benefit, and I shall liberate you. However, if you sort of become a little egoistic and therefore you do not do what I'm telling you or what is right for you, then of course you'll get destroyed. There are two reasons for it. One is wherever there is ahankara, there is bhranti, there is misjudgment, there is wrong understanding because you have a limited perspective. Once we identify with the divine comes into picture, it expands our vision, our canvas, and it gives us a strange kind of energy because you're connecting with a higher realm. I mean, it's not that we and God, uh, all of it is consciousness. But once you invoke that truth, it's like you have a bank account, but you do not know how much money you have in the account. You are not willing to see inside. You can't at all withdraw any money, even if you are in a crisis. But if you know how much money you have in your bank, then of course you can withdraw it. That is the upasana. When we meditate on it, we know the secret powers, the potential we have to reach higher levels of realization. And Bhagavan says that if you do not listen to me and you have some kind of ahankara, then Prakriti will drive you to do the same thing because you are forgetting what is the tendency. So, if, for example, sometimes, when you're driving, if there is some sort of a problem in your, wheel alignment or something, the vehicle will turn you towards a particular direction, left or right. And unless you fix it, it's going to pull you in that direction. If you're aware of it, then you're careful about it, you can still manage to drive, okay, whether it's a bike or a car. But if you're absolutely not aware of it, you just think everything is perfect, then you're going to go in a particular direction based on the system. And then Bhagavan says in that verse number 60 is, Swabhavajena Kaunteya Nibaddha Swena Karmana. All of us, and especially you human beings, are caught up in your own change, which you have inherited as a result of the samskara of millions and millions of births. Kartum nechasi yana mohat, and then you do not want to do something because you are obsessed with a particular way of doing it. And you will definitely do it. Karishyasi abaso pi tat. Of course, you will do it. It's like sometimes there's somebody who plays very well. Okay, it happens mostly in the field of sports. So somebody is a good cricketer or a footballer, and he has developed a particular way of dealing with the situation. He plays in a certain fashion, and the coach says that, look here, you're doing that is all fine, but then we are going to play. This is a World Cup, and there are certain other cricketers and the fast bowlers who are now playing, going to come up with these kind of deliveries to you. Do you know how to deal with it? If you shuffle and play that shot, you're going to get leg before wicket because you won't have that kind of time. You're playing this in domestic cricket, you can get away with it. International cricket, the deliveries are much faster and there's going to be some bounce and swing. It's going to be very unpredictable. So it's much better that you sort of position yourself appropriately. Don't try to sift and shuffle and then play a shot. You're not going to survive. With this batsman, if he doesn't realize it, if he doesn't realize this advice and the importance of it, and he goes on doing it, he'll get out and then he'll be forced by his own nature to do what he's saying, that you do it appropriately. So this war is a Kshatriya. If he runs away, then he hears the tearful cries of his own son, his brothers, who may get injured in the battle with the Kauravas. He will be pulled back by his own Prakriti. He cannot run away. And there's bloodshed, there shall be bloodshed, but there'll be additional bloodshed because you'll be blind, he'll be angry, he'll be revengeful because his brothers, his sons are affected. So Bhagavan is saying, look here, if you have this yogic understanding, it's like somebody says you practice a bit of meditation and a bit of breathing exercise so that when you go to office, you can deal with a stressful work situation much better. But you say, no, I don't want to do all this. Why don't you hold a weekly meeting with the staff and give a bit of orientation as to what is your expectation and what do you want to achieve in the next quarter? No, this is a wastage of time. We have an email thing we send out, what is required, and we meet once in a fortnight. He said, okay, go ahead. Then what happens? You will not be able to deliver it. Then instead of doing these weekly meetings, you may be forced to hold daily meetings to see. I mean, if the deadline is coming nearer, you want to sit with the team and take note of how far they're progressing. Like it happens during emergency management in different departments. They hold meetings every evening because there's a cyclone coming or there's a flood situation. They have to take stock of things. Now, this was being advised, make it a practice in your organization. You didn't do it, but you'll do it in emergency situations. And that's what Bhagavan said in the verse number 60. And then in the verse number 61 till 65, more or less is going to give some similar advice and slowly lead them towards this particular fundamental realization and truth that complete surrender to the divine is the best bet in life. And why? He'll explain one by one. So let's look at that verse number 61. So, Swabhavadhina dhinatam uktva ishwaradhinatam vibrunoti. So if you go by your nature, or it's fine, there'll be some hits and some misses. That is the difference between the Sattvika and the Rajasika guy. We have discussed that earlier, that the Sattvika and Rajasika Jnana. The Sattvika guy is having Nishchayata Purvaka Jnana. The Rajasika guy, he also has understanding of how the world runs, but he doesn't have that conclusive, comprehensive, integral understanding of who he is, why he's doing it. He gets confused. There are gaps in his consciousness. That is the basic difference. Otherwise, both of them are very efficient in their everyday lives. The Sattvika guy is more balanced, has a better understanding. He's not rusting through things to achieve. He's quietly, nicely trying to achieve things. So in the verse number 61, now from 61 onwards for next 6-7 verses, Bhagavan will tell what are the importance of surrender to the divine. And in verse number 66, he will say, Sarva dharmam paritejya mamevam sharanam gacha. Till then, this is all about prapatti, sharanagati from 61 till 65. Beautiful verses. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddese arjuna tisthati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. Ishvaraha, the Lord of the universe, sarva bhutanam hriddese, is in the heart. Is it the physical location? No. He's talking about he is antaryami, and therefore he is everywhere. He is all pervading, and therefore he doesn't spare any human beings. He's not, rude. He's not cruel. He's not apathetic. So the good sense, the viveka, he manifests in the form of good discernment, good judgment, a right, forward-looking attitude. He's there, but he's hiding in us. If we open our eyes to him, then he starts playing. It's like you have a small team, you're going on a boat, and there's a mechanical problem. There is actually an engineer in the team, but you underestimate him. He's sitting in a corner. He doesn't say anything. When the boat starts malfunctioning, you're looking for a guy who can fix it. Then you say, who is the engineer? Other people say, sir, he's sitting on the corner. Then you say, sir, can you help me? Then he comes forward. God, like that, is sitting inside us. And he's saying, how? They say, hey, Arjuna, tishtati, Ishwara tishtati. I mean, so sweet. He himself is saying that Ishwara tishtati. He's not saying, I am there everywhere. He's just saying, Ishwara tishtati. Brahmayana sarva bhutani. Then he behaves as if he's actually running around and doing everything. Yantra rudhani mayaya. How does it happen? If you have those, these days, these things are not there, but earlier days, they were having those, doll dance or doll plays or whatever, doll show. There was something called doll show in different parts of India. So they'll have these wooden dolls, and they'll have small threads which are not visible to the eyes, and they will play out Ramayana or Mahabharata or a particular story from the epics, and the dolls will be interacting with each other. The doll shows are very attractive those days. So they'll dress them up as human beings, and then, so they will know how to hang those dolls because they'll have to enact the whole play as if they're alive. But there's one guy who's doing all this at the top, and there are these threads connected with these dolls. So he's saying, Brahmayana Sarva Bhutani, he's the one who sort of makes everything move. Yantra Rudhani Maya, as if he is, he's sort of climbing and riding all these instruments. All of us are like instruments, means in the hands of God. Okay. Iti Maya, by his Maya Sakti, the Anirvachaniya Maya Sakti. Ishvara Ishanashilo Narayana, Lord Krishna. I'm basically focusing on the Madhusudana Saraswati because I checked Sankaracharya. Whatever he says is kind of included in this. He's not saying significantly something different. He does that in verse number 65. We'll go there. Ishwaraha Ishanashilo Narayanaha Sarva Antaryami. He is there in all of us. Yaha Pratibhyam Tishtan Pratibhya Antaro Yang Pratibhi Naveda Yasya Pratibhi Sharirang Yaha Pratibhi Mantaro Yamayati. So, this is a beautiful Shruti Vakya where he says, who exists in us, in this Prithvi, and then Prithvi doesn't know him. Okay? And Yasya Prithvi Sariram, and this Prithvi is his physical manifestation. Stula Sarira. Yaha Prithivim Antaro Yamayati. And then he controls. He stays inside. He controls, regulates everything here. It's kind of one sentence we're saying that's the whole Bhutavaraga, the Stula Jagata, all that we see are kind of regulated. Why? That pure consciousness, there's nowhere where that pure consciousness is not there. Then you could say why somebody is so happy, meditative, spiritual, the other one is so angry, the third one is so restless, and the fourth one is very confused. Why so? Because of their own papa punyas. They have their own karmic load. But that pure consciousness is in all of them. If they turn to that consciousness, if they turn to the divine, their destiny will change. I was talking to a guy, he's an astrologer. He said something very beautiful, and I liked what he said. He said, look here, astrology works only for them who are not connected with the divine or who haven't met a good guru or acharya. Because destiny, the word, is relevant for the one who is blind to the divine. So he is like a blind man being pulled by laws of nature, his own swabhava. Once he opens his eyes to the divine, there is a revolution in him. Then he makes his own destiny with the grace of the guru and the acharya, and especially Ishvara himself enters his life. And therefore, that Puranic Vakya is there. Pangungulang hetegiri, mukam karoti vachalam. So I pray to the Lord, with grace of which the guy who's dumb can actually go on giving long speeches. Even somebody who doesn't have physical fitness can scale the Himalayas, the Everest. I pray to him because anything is possible, as Sri Aurobindo used to say. Everything is possible if God touches there. Why? Because He's creator of everything. So He's saying, Prithivyam Tishtan Prithivya Antaro Yang Prithivi Na Veda Yasya Prithivi Sariram Yaha Prithivim Mantoro Yamayati Yatcha Kinchit Jagat Sarvam Drishyati Shruyati Peva. Whatever is Jagat that you see, or whatever is visible, or whatever you hear, Antar Vahishyata Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Hastitaha. And whatever you see, remember, my friend, that is pervaded by Lord Narayana, Lord Krishna. Ityadi Sruti Siddhaha Sarva Bhutanam Sharvesham Praninam. Sarva Bhuta here means especially all the pranis who are moved by their own papas and punyas. Hriddeshena. What is this Hriddesa? Hriddesa is not the physical location, it's Antakarana. And is Manabuddhi Chitta Ahankara, the Sukshma Sarira. Antakarani Tishtati Sarva Vyapokopi Tatra Avivyajyate Sapta Deepa Adhipati Riva Rama Uttara Kosalayam. So why is there? Somebody say, why is there in the Antakarana? Why not everywhere? The Bhagavan is not there in my fingers. He's not there in my hair, my body, my neck. Of course, he's there everywhere. Why? Because he's Sarvabhyapi. There is no place where he's not there. So why is it mentioned he's there in Hridaya Desha? He's saying, look, Sri Rama is Sarvabhyapi, but he lives in Ajodhya, Uttara Koshala Deshe. We say this. Same way, this is a manner of speaking, okay? Because that is the Lila Purusha. Uttara Koshalam, he Arjuna, he Shukla Suddha Antakarana. You have pure consciousness because you are a Vairagi. Etadrusham Ishwaram Tvam Yantum Yogya Asi iti Dyotyate. Arjuna, because he's a very straightforward, Akotila, he's not a complicated guy. Arjuna is very straightforward. And therefore he's saying, you have this pure Antakarana. There are a few doubts. I shouted at you, saying that where did you get this Clivia? Where did you get this, Anarja Justam? All these bad things I shouted at you because you were behaving like a little childish person. You have already heard the long lecture. You have all the potential to wake up from your slumber, my dear friend. You have a pure consciousness. There are a few inherited, imperfections, and that's fine. That's not a problem. But you are able, you have the capacity, the potential to realize, who am I? What is the truth? Okay, so King Kurbangs Tishtati Brahmayan. How does Bhagavan stays in everyone? Brahmayan, he's regulating us. Itastataha Chalayana Sarvabhutani. Brahmayan means idhar udhar chalata hai. All of us. Sarvabhutani Paratantrani. So, when you worship Ma Kali, there is this one particular sentence, very powerful, Paratantra Vinashini. That Paratantra is, he makes you Swatantra. You're all the time dependent on Prakriti in the games of these three gunas. But Ma Kali is worshipped because she is going to liberate you from this game, because it's her game. She's the Malkin, she's the boss of this game, of Prakriti. So she's the Paraprakriti, and you worship her. She's Chitswarupini, and she's going to liberate. She's the loving, kind mother. And this is all, the Leela. She's all part of Brahman. Okay, this is a certain name that we're giving. And therefore she can Paratantrani Mayaya Chadamana. Just imagine. He's using this word. Bhagavan also is all the time in disguise regulating us. We don't know. Sometimes a good advice comes to us from a friend. We laugh at him. We don't know. Maybe it was sent out to us, that message, by Lord himself. Sometimes shouts at us. We get angry. We don't know. Maybe the Lord is shouting us through that person. Chadamana, yantra rudhani iva. So as if I'm controlling all of them. Sutra sansaradi yantram arudhani. You have this doll show where there are small invisible threads, and these dolls are kind of held up, and the hands and all, it's all regulated. So somebody's pulling those strings and all. So one doll will move here, and they'll shake hands, and they'll go away. It's all done beautifully. Rudhani. Kurban tishtati brahmayan. Okay, so jantra rudhani iva sutra sansaradi yantram arudhani daru nirmita purushadini atyanta paratantrani. These small dolls are all made of wood. These old doll shows that I'm talking about. Purushadini atyanta paratantrani. They depend on the person who is going to regulate them, play with them. Yatha mayavi brahmayati tadvad ityartha. Like a magician, he comes on at the stage, then he can make a lot of things happen. They don't even exist. So he shows you a flower bouquet and immediately covers it with a handkerchief or a napkin, then pulls out the napkin, and then there's a beautiful dove. And then he hides that dove in a bag and pulls it out. It's a parrot. It starts talking. You're super excited. How is he doing it? Actually, there's nothing which exists. It's all Hath Ki Safai. He just makes these things appear to you as if they're magical. But he knows how they happen. That is what is verse number 61. In Sankaracharya, there is nothing additional. If I look at that verse, if there is anything, Suddhanta, Ahascha Krishnam Ahar Arjuna, Rigveda Sanghita. So Arjuna, the meaning of the Arjun essentially is straightforward, Vishuddhanta Karana. Sakatham Tishtati Tyaha, then the rest of it is kind of same. and there is absolutely nothing. The sentences are taken up from Sankaracharya repeated here. And then we are going to the verse number 62. Ishwaraha sarva bhutani paratantrani priyarayati. So Bhagavan is motivating us to behave in different ways. And we act because he tells us to act in a certain way. If that is so, if that is so, praptam vidhi pratiseda sastrasya sarvasya purushakarasya cha anarthakyamiti atra aha. Somebody might say that, oh, really, Bhagavan does everything. I mean, that's one of the main problems with many of us, and including especially people in the normal, the samsara, because they get a little confused and perturbed. It happens to all of us. They said, if Bhagavan is Sarva Niyamaka, why can't he give me Vairagya? So if I'm interested in wrong things, isn't it God doing it? So, I mean, then what is there for me to do? Somebody might ask that question. What should I do then? Now, Madhusudana Saraswati is saying, verse number 62 is the best answer for the guy who says, if God is doing everything, what do we have to do? The answer is this. Tameva saranam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi sachvatam. Bhagavan says, really? God does everything? Okay, so you have the answer. What is the answer? Answer is, if there's somebody who does everything for you, just surrender to him or her. You yourself are saying that if God does everything, why are you holding me responsible? Bhagavan says, I hold you responsible because you are ahankari purusha. You think you can get out of it, or you think you are swatantra. If you say God is doing everything, how many times you remember me throughout the day? Why can't you then surrender to that God who you think is controlling every bit of your life? It's very logical. So we are trying to play, cat and mouse with God. But God doesn't play cat and mouse with us. He's just there. It's for us to decide whether we want to surrender to Him or not. If we want to surrender, we can and we'll get the benefit. If you don't want, okay, we'll reap the benefits of being independent and moved by our own ego. Then we'll get results as per our prarabdha in whatever karma, the laws of this that follows us. So he's saying, tam ishwaram eva saranam gacha. Why can't you then take refuge in him? Because you are saying that God is doing everything. Fine. I said this in the earlier verse. Then you are saying, what is Papa Punya then? No, there is no Papa Punya. You don't want to suffer, right? Surrender to me. Because you yourself say, if God does everything, what do I have to do? You have to surrender. Sarva bhavena bharata, in all the forms, all the ways. Tat prasadat, Ishwara prasadat, Tasya prasadat, Param shantim. That is not a relief, that's not physical relief, that's not financial relief or emotional relief. Param shantim, based on self realization. Because no sense of peace is permanent if it's not based on truth and realization. So it's not about material felicity, emotional warmth, or comfort or financial security. It's about having an understanding where you do not feel restless again. Param Shantim Sthanam Prapsyasi, you shall get. Saswatam, and that's eternal. There's not going to be a return from there. Tam Eva Ishwaram, the commentary. Saranam Ashrayam. Saranam is means you try to take that as your refuge. Sansara Samudra Uttaranartham. You want to cross over this Bhabasagara, the ocean of hopes and frustrations called Sansara. Gacha Asraya Sarva Bhavena. What is that Sarva Bhavena? Not Lord Krishna is Giridhara Gopal who is sitting and singing for you, but Sarvam Vasudevamiti, with that sort of thing. Then you are liberated. So there is some kind of a hint that the text says that you do Saguna Upasana, but ultimately you have to be one with the Lord as all pervading. Sarvatmana Manasha Vacha. And then through your mind, Sarvabhavena, Kaya, Vacha, everywhere, Manasha Vacha, Karmanacha. Mano by Kaya. Kaya is karma, and a Vak, and then Mana. So in all these, at all three levels, Cha He Bharata, tat prasadat, Ishwara prasadat, tasya eva Ishwarasya anugrahat, because of his anugraha. So, if you look at Kashmiri Shaivism, if you look at the Sakta Paramparas in Bengal, Orissa, Assam, or you look at the Vaishnava Paramparas also in the same area, also in Gujarat and other places, and then the Shaiva Parampara in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they have one thing in common. Ishvara Anugraha is most important. Divine grace is most important. Jnana will give you liberation, the Advaita Vedanta says, but to reach there, Bhagavan is very clear here, to reach there, you must be a Kritopasti. You must have done a lot of upasanas. You need his grace. So first you do Adhyaropa, then you do Apavada. To start with, the child has to count the fingers at 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Adhyaropa. Then he moves them away and then he is able to say 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't need the fingers. So we need upasana to start with and meditations to purify ourselves. When we are there already, reaching there, then perhaps we don't need all this. But I have read Vedanta, so I don't go to temples, I don't want to meditate, I don't want to do pranayama, don't believe in all this. That's looking for defeat in this game. So Bhagavan says, what sarvatmana manasha vacha karmanacha he bharata tat prasadat ishwar prasadat anugrahat tattva jnana utpatti paryanta param shanti. So once you get this, first you do upasana, then there is jnana utpatti, means ajnana nivriti. Once ajnana goes, the cause which makes shanti difficult to achieve is gone. The pratibandhaka of shanti is gone. Because the pratibandhaka for real shanti is bhranti and all kinds of avidya. You move that away. These are the roadblocks, you move them. Then you discover yourself. Shantim, sakarya avidya nibriti. What is karya of avidya? The sansara. Avidya tata karya. Avidya is the cause. Effect is the sansara, this bandha. Then you remove the bandha. What remains? Bandha bhava, bandha abhava. That is what? That is moksha. But there is a lot of debate. Dukkha nibriti is not moksha. Atma jnana is moksha. The Nyayayika say dukkha nibriti, atyantika dukkha nibriti is, for them the ultimate liberation. There's a lot of debate on that in advanced Vedantic texts, but it's been removed. That is not the best way to define, because you have to actually have Atma jnana, that ultimate thing. Then only you will get liberated. Sthanam advitiyam. So that Shantim Sthanam Prapsyasi. What is that ultimate destination that he's talking about? He's saying advitiyam Swaprakasa, Advitiya Swaprakasa Paramananda Rupena Avasthanam. That is your sthanam. So you reach that Atma Jnana in that Paramananda Rupena Avasthanam. That is the sthana what is saying. Beautifully interpreted. Shaswatam, and that is obviously Nitya. There is no return. It's not karma for like Swarga Prapti. And therefore, Atma Jnana, Jnane Parisamaptate, everything. And therefore, you reach there, there's no return. Sarva Gitartham Upasanghar Aha. And then in the verse number 63, he sort of is now concluding this whole long discourse he gave to Arjuna, saying, I have told you everything, my boy. Now take your decision. He's now putting him to a test. Whether he has understood what I told him, Bhagavan is putting him to a test. He's putting all of us to a test. Whether we have finally understood. The best part of Bhagavad Gita is towards the end of it. You always get a feeling, I wish he had said a few more things. You feel a little incomplete. It's like the grandma is telling a story, and a sweet story, and the story is getting excited and suddenly says, yeah, that prince and that princess, they lived happily ever. And then she will conclude saying, and then what happened? Now, then I had gone to see them once, but they did not recognize me. That's the funny way in which in India, the grandmas end their stories. But what is the beauty of this is that the more and more we are approaching the end of Bhagavad Gita, we feel an element of emotional loss that Bhagavan is going to stop talking to you. But right now, he's giving that freedom to us to decide as to what we want to do in the verse number 63. Iti te jnanamakshatam guhyat guhyataram maya bimissetad aseshena yatechasi tatha kuru. Iti te jnanam akshatam. This is what is the jnana, the Atma jnana, Tattva jnana I had to give you. I have told you about Karma Yoga. I have told you about Jnana Yoga. I've given to you what is my Vibhuti, how this whole world has manifested. I've told you the Kshetra. I have mentioned everything to you, right? And then I have told you what is the samsara like in the Purushottama Yoga in the 15th chapter, Asuri Sampad, Daivi Sampad, then the Trigunas and how the games are played out. Now we are end of the journey. I'm saying I've told you everything, my boy. Guhyat Guhyataram Maya, and I've told you that top secret, which is most secret among all other secrets. Bimrshya. So now meditate on it. Think about it. Analyze it. Reflect on it. Etad asheshena. Don't think for a while and forget about it. Asheshena. Comprehensively. Don't leave out something. Take the whole discussion to a logical conclusion. Jatha ichhasi tatha kuru. Now you decide. So he has made a big PowerPoint presentation before Arjuna and says, you look at the slides again at your own convenience, meditate on it, and take a call. What do you want to do? You want to follow what I am saying, or you want to do anything that comes? You didn't want to fight. Are you sure you want to go away? Bhagavan is giving him a chance. Because if he says, no, I'm convinced I want to take sannyas, I want to go and meditate, Bhagavan will say, okay, let's go, I'll tell you Upanishads. But he's looking at it, what level of evolution this guy is. Bhagavan says, whatever you think, that's fine with me. Now, there's a beautiful advice here for all the fathers and mothers. There is a bit of, this is a lesson in spiritual counseling. The counselor, the coach, never decides what you should do. He helps you understand yourself, and then he withdraws and says, okay, now tell me, what do you want? How do you want to proceed? He wants you to speak. Then he finds out whether you have resolved the problem that you had, or you're still somewhere stuck. Whether you have sort of recovered your adult self, you have reconstituted yourself, you have reconstructed your emotional self image, and you are ready to move further because you have a new understanding of what has happened to you. There are certain events that you could not understand. So you felt depressed. You went to him. So he hears you out. You speak the truth. He asks a few questions. Then you listen to yourself. You remember a lot of things that you had never thought about. And then slowly he says, yeah, so what do you think you want to do now? And that's the best. This is the best lesson in parental advice. A lot of us sort of impose our ideas on our children, on our juniors, and our younger siblings. But Bhagavan, look at him. He's Sarvaniyamaka. And look at his compassion and his open mindedness. He's saying, I have explained everything to you, my boy, do whatever you want. Iti anena prakarena, Madhusudana, iti anena prakarena te means to you, tubhyam, atyanta priyaya, you're very dear to me. So, is that emotional touch is giving him that motivation. He's saying, I'm not cheating you. I'm not discarding you because I'm tired of talking to you. He's saying, no, you're very loving. I love you. You're very dear to me. Jnanam atma matra vishayam. And this jnana has nothing. It's all about the self. Moksha sadhanam. And this jnana is the means to getting liberation. Guhyat guhyataram. Paramam. Parama rahasyadapi. If there's any secret on earth, this is even more secret than that. Even more complex, more difficult, more mysterious. This is the mystic truth. Sanyasantat karma yogat rahasyataram. So whether it's talking about sannyasa or karma yoga, from both this is deeper because talking about a complete paravakti, which is jnana nishtha, complete surrender, complete meditation, immersion in the divine. Rahasyataram. So this is even more difficult, more impenetrable, a very deep secret. Tat phala bhutatvad akhyatam. And then this is how I'm mentioning it. Samantat kathitam maya sarvajnena parama aptena. And I'm Sarvagya, you know about it. You wanted to my Sishya and you said, please give me guidance. I've given that to you. And not in an incomplete manner, but in a very comprehensive manner. I've tossed down all aspects of samsara. Ataha bimrishya, by meditating on it, reflecting on it, paryalochya, by doing paryalochana, by and looking at pros and cons, etana Maya upadishtam, whatever is advised by me, Gita Sastram Asheshena. And think about this Gita. This is for all the readers, all of us. Asheshena, read it again, understand it. Samasthena, Samasta Prakarena. Look at all the verses. Get the whole truth of it. Sarveka Vakyataya. All the sentences have one message. There is one Ekya Vakyata. What is Eka Vakyata in Mimamsa? Ekartha Pratipadakatvam. So there is one Artha, which is Pratipada. This is Pratipadaka. There is a Pratipadya Vishaya. That is the Samandha. The Pratipadya, Pratipadaka Samandha. These slokas are Pratipadaka. There is a Pratipadya thing, which is intended to be conveyed to us. Meditate on that, Bhagavan is saying. Sarva Eka Vakyataya. Right? So, what is that artha which I have mentioned, delivered, concluded here? Jnatva, so adhikara anurupyena. Depending on your adhikara, whether you are sannyasa adhikari, jnana adhikari, karma yoga adhikari, bhakti adhikari, you look at yourself, conclude yourself. Jatha ichhasi, the way you come to a conclusion, do that way. Natu etad avimrishya eva, not by not thinking about it. Kamakarena yat kinchid ityarthaha. You just do a snap judgment. Okay, fine. Bahut bhasan de diye. It's like teenage children. You tell them something, they hear you out. You said, okay, Papa, are you done? I'm going with my friends to the party. I've heard enough of you. Please, my exams are over. Don't trouble me. Then you are very restless. My son is going there. My daughter is going there. I don't know what's going to happen. So you call him or her 20 times before the party is over. Then he or she comes back halfway, then shouts you for another half an hour. Okay? So Bhagavan says, no, meditate on it quietly. Atra cha etavad uktam asuddha antakaranasya. Now it's Madhusudana Saraswati's own commentary. There are a couple of complications, and you will see that. Atra cha etavad uktam abhi tak jo bataya asuddha antakaranasya mumukshuho मोक्ष साधन ज्ञानोत्पत्ति योग्यता अप्रतिबंधक पापक्षयार्थम योग्यता प्रतिबंधक पापक्षयार्थम फलाभिसंधि परित्यागेन भगवत अर्पण बुद्धिया वर्णाश्रम धर्मानुष्ठानम. So he's giving you the stages. Somebody has asuddhantakarana. What should he do? He's mumukshu, but he's not jnana adhikari. He's still having raga, dvesha, everything. Then what is he advised? What is the moksha sadhana? Where does he have to start first? For jnana utpatti, he has to have suddhanta karana. He has to have yogyata, the qualification. You know, samadhamadi satka sampati. You know, that nitya nitya vastu viveka, iha mutra phala bhoga viraga, viveka, vairagya, shamadhamadi satka sampati. And then mumuksha. He has mumuksha, the other things he doesn't have. Then he will start with cultivating viveka, vairagya, and shamadama, all that he'll practice. Pratibandhaka papakhayartham. There are some obstructions to achieve that qualification. Purva papa. He has to do prayasita through upasana. Phala visandhi parityagena. So without phala, he will do nishkama karma yoga as a prayaschita, as a punishment to himself. Punishment not to the higher self, punishment to the lower self, for growth of the higher self. Bhagavat arpana buddhya, surrender to the God. And then varnashrama dharmanushan means do whatever you are doing, whatever professions you are in. Tataha suddhanta karanasya, then he has suddhanta karana. He is getting jnana yogyata. Bibidisa utpatto, bibidisa, that jnana ichha, he wants to create it. Guru muprishtya, he takes sannyas, he takes brahmacharya or vanaprastha, go to a guru. Jnana sadhana vedanta vakya vicharaya, then he listens to the Upanishads. Like we are doing satsang, he also does satsang. Brahmanesha sarvakarma sannyasa. If he's a Brahmin, this is a typical view. As I was saying, a little complication in the historical setting. Madhusudana Saraswati, he came from a very rich Sanskritized family in Bengal and studied at Kasi, and he was a great scholar. So he is going by the parampara, whatever was acceptable at that point of time, which is about 400-500 years back. Brahmanesha sarvakarma sannyasa tata bhagavad eka saranatya. Then having single-minded devotion to God, vivikta desa sevadi, and then vivikta desa sevitvam. He'll go and do meditation, nididhyasana, on the Vedanta vakyas. Jnana sadhana abhyasat. He does jnana sadhana abhyasa, abhriti. Reads the text again and again. Shravana Manana Nididhyasana Nairyatma Sakhyadkara Utpatya Moksha iti. And then finally, Nididhyasanaihi Atma Sakhyadkara. So doing this Ravana Manana and Nididhyasana, he'll have self perception, direct Sakhyadkar, self knowledge. And then when that Tattva Darsana happens, he will get moksha. Kshatradisu too, and then others, Kshatradas too, because whether it's Kshatriya, Vaishya, or others, those who are doing, because they were not giving sannyasa those days, Kshatriya days too, sannyasa anadhikarinaha. As per the parampara those days, they didn't take sannyasa, mumukshuho antakarna suddhi anantaramapi. After antakarna suddhi, instead of taking sannyasa, what does he do? Bhagavat agya palanaya. He will listen to God's advice that he will be matparaha, matchittaha, he will do all that. Loka sangrahaya, he'll continue to do his work. Jatha kathanchit karmani kurvotupi. Whether he has children, he'll look after them, he'll take care of his wife, and he'll do his professional work. And then what does he do? Bhagavad Eka Saranateya, but he remains dedicated, surrendered to the divine. Punarjanama Krita Sanyasadi Parivakadva. Or maybe if he leaves his body, he could not complete the journey, he'll be reborn in a Hiranya Garbha Nyayena Tad Anapekshyanadava. Or it's that Hiranyagarbha, that when that Hiranyagarbha, when that there is a Kalpakhya and the Kalpante, he also gets terminated, he gets liberated. Similarly, so he Nyayana Tad Anapekshyanadava Bhagavat Anugraha Matrina. From here only, either he'll go to Brahmaloka, stay there, then the Prajapati will advise him, Brahma will advise him, he'll get liberated when there is a Laya Avastha starts after the Srishtikala. Or what happens is that because of Bhagavan's anugrah, here only Tattva Jnana Utpatya Agrima Janmani, either in this life or in the next life, maybe he will be born in a more cultured, maybe he'll be born in the house of a scholar. Brahmana Janmalavena Sannyasa Adi Purvaka Jnana Utpatya Va Moksha iti. So these are the sociologically complicated lines when he mentioned that only the sannyasa is meant for the Brahmins. That this has been refused by the direct disciple of Shankaracharya himself, Sureshwaracharya, who mentioned that actually it means that all the people who having access to the rituals and everything can also take sannyasa. Evam vicharite cha nasti moha vakasa iti bhavaha. So if you do this, you should not have any further moha or any faulty understanding or attachment to your bhranti mulaka chinta that this is violence, this I don't want to do, I want to run away, I want to do vikshachara. No, not that. अति गंभीरस्य गीताशास्त्रस्य अशेषतः पर्यालोचन क्लेश निवृत्तये. So if you do this Gita Shastra, it requires a lot of hard work. It's not easy. So he wants to reduce that. Kripaya swayam eva tasya saram sankhipya kathayati. Bhagavan himself paraphrases the whole message of Bhagavad Gita in the verse number 64. सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्. Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah shruno me. Again listen to me. Bhuya, again. Sarvaguhyatam, secret of the secrets. Me, mama, my, paramam vachaha, my ultimate words of advice. Ishtosi me, because you are so dear to me. It's not that I'm trying to cheat you anything. Drudham iti, because you are dear to me, I want to help you. Drudham iti, some scholars say it is also there in some books as Drudhamati. So either way, he's saying, Sankaracharya says, iti dridham kritva, having ascertained that I'm going to help you, I love you. Or some people say, drudha iti matva, this is Sridhari. So both of them have their interpretations. It doesn't make much of a difference to us. Bhagavan is saying that I've ascertained that I want to tell you the truth. Tataha vakhyami, therefore I'm telling you, te hitam, what's in your interest. Purva hi guhyat karma yogat guhyataram jnanam akyatam. Already have told you what is jnana, which is better than a discussion on sannyasa or karma yoga, both. That is jnana. Adhuna, to and now, karma yogat tata phalabhuta jnanacha. So first you do karma yoga, what happens? Antakarna suddhi. Then you what do? You do jnana yoga. So from both karma yoga and jnana yoga, this is something even superior. Sarvasmad api atisayena guhyam. This is superior to even those two sadhanas. So atishayena, it's very, very subtle. Guhyam rahasyam. It's a very subtle secret, a truth. Guhyatamam, paramam sharvatah prakrishtam. And it's the ultimate truth of all truths that I have shared with you so far. Me, mama vachaha. And these are my words, my friend. Vakyam, bhuyaha tatra. Again, I'm telling it to you. Tatra uktam api tvad anugrahartham punarvakhyamanam shunu. I have told this to you earlier. In case you are not very attentive or you did not grasp it well, I'm repeating it for your benefit, my boy. Na lava puja khyati khyatiyadi artham. Not because I have any benefit to gain, or you would be more loyal to me, or I'll be very famous or anything. Nothing. I just love you. Tvam brabhimi king tu ishtaha priyoshime. You're dear to me. Mama dridha mati sayena. Drudham atishayena iti. Yataha tataha tena eva ishtatvena vakhyami. And therefore, because I have ascertained that, I'm telling you without any doubt, have faith in me. I love you most. These are the words all parents tell to their children. When they are advising something with the child doesn't want to agree, and they hold the boy, give him a hug and says, "Are you sure? Do you think I don't love you, or you tell me? Do you believe that I love you?" The boy or girl says, "Of course, Papa, you love me." Do you think I'll say something which is not in your interest? Or do you think I'm trying to constrain you? The boy realizes these are words of love. Then he turns around and hugs back the father and says, "Yeah, I'm going to do this. Bhagwan is doing it. This is wonderful counseling. Kathaishyami aprushtopi tumne nahi pucha." Even then I'm telling you, because I'm like a father figure, I'm the universe, mother or father of the universe. San aham te tava hitam paramam shriyaha. What's in your interest? That's what I'm going to tell it to you, my boy. Then the verse number 65. Tadeva aha. Then Bhagavan says, he's saying this, without being asked. That is what Madhusudana Saraswati is saying, because the father, the mother, they do not all the time wait for the question for the child. They fulfill it out of love. Manamana bhavamata bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mami vaisyasi satyam te pratijani priyoshimi. Manamana, think about me all the time. You know why? Because you know that I control everything. I have explained everything to you. If you are thinking about me, most likely you will take the right decision. If some friend calls you to a party, you're thinking about Lord Krishna, most likely you'll recognize if there is any bad plan or game plan behind it. God will protect you. Mad Bhakto, and then do my bhajana. Mad Yaji, do all the anushtana, surrender it to me. Mam Namaskuru, pray to me, bow down to me. Mam Eva Esyasi Satyam Te, and then do it and do whatever I'm saying. Pratijane Priyosime, and you are very dear to me. Therefore, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm going to tell you, it's always in your interest. And the ultimate thing will come in the verse number 66. So he's just preparing the ground for that. Just look there. We have 5-7 minutes. We'll finish the commentary on the verse number 65. Mai Bhagavati Vasudeve Mano Yasya Saha Manamana. Who is Manamana? The person whose mind is firmly established in me. Matchitta, that is what he had said. Manamana bhava, you be that. Have me in your mind. Sada mam chintaya, think about me, wherever you are, whatever you do. Dveshena kansa sisupaladihi api, tatha ata aha madhavaktaha premna mai anuparaktaha. And then what? Mai anuraktaha, not anuparaktaha, mai anuraktaha. Now, a lot of people also think about God. Ravana was thinking about Ram all the time. Kansa was thinking about Krishna all the time to kill him. Shishupala wanted to punish and wanted to teach him a lesson. So he says, Madha Bhakta, Premna Maya Anurakta. Love me, think about me, but out of love, not out of hatred. That will be Papa. That's essentially Atma Ghati, because I'm not different from you. So you hate me, you hate yourself. Mad vishena anuragena sada mad vishayam manaha kuru iti vidhiyate. So with love, think about me. Like, in the Vaishnava Parampara, they have something called Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti means with a bit of rules and regulation, you do some, like you will wake up in the morning and then you pray God, you take a bath, a candle, and a bit of food or whatever you offer. There is a moment where all these laws are dropped because that bhakta violates the law because he's in love with that person. There are no rules and regulations now. Raganuga Bhakti is moved by his attraction to the divine. Then no laws apply to him. He would go and knock at the door in the middle of the night because he wants to meet Lord Krishna. And such crazy people are there because they're in love. I met a lady at Vrindavan, and I still remember that even. So she was having this small swing on her neck, and there was this small Gopala there. And I looked at her, a middle aged lady. It was about 15 years back, and I looked, maybe 10 years back, and I looked at her and I said, so you carry him all around? And this lady was in tears. She looks at me and says, भैया इनको हम कहाँ ले जाएं? वो जहाँ मुझे ले जाते हैं मैं जाती हूँ. Where can I take him? He's the Lord of the universe. Wherever he takes me, I go. The way she told it to me in front of Banke Vihari temple, I mean, I could feel that I was also feeling very emotional because that was the pinnacle of love. And she's so much in love with Lord Krishna. A lot of people are looking at her as if she's completely crazy. She was a very well educated woman who was in love with Lord Krishna. And she's carrying Lord Krishna. And she was telling me how she loved him and how she has to buy some milk food for him because he demands milk food. That is bhakti yoga. That's a beautiful relationship. It's exactly between a mother and a child. And she says that I buy this, I buy that for him. I do not know. Today I have to do this puja for him in the evening. But she's not bound by any laws anymore. I didn't see any relatives or anyone. Maybe she was just in love with Lord Krishna. Now that kind of thing is mentioning. Mad vishayana anuragena sada mad vishayam manaha kuru iti vidhiyate. That is the advice. Love me. Tvad vishaya anuraga eva kena syad ityata aha mad yaji. So how does that happen? Okay, eva kena syad. How does that happen? Mad yaji mang yastrum pujaitum shilam jasya sa sada mat puja paro bhava. Mera yajan karo. Think about me. Do pujan. These are the ways that Vaidhi Bhakti you start with that. Puja pakarna bhavepi mam namaskuru. Okay, you don't have laddus and milk and rabidi and rasmalai and rasgulla to offer to me. I don't bother. Patram puspam phalam toyam. The rules and regulations are for the karma kandis because they are sakama bhaktas. They are arthas. They are artharthis. But you are not that. You are jnani. Whatever you give, I'm good enough. Look at Draupadi. She gives one small piece of some spinach. He's super happy. And this Sudama carries some fried rice grains. Isn't it funny kind of snacks? He's super happy, isn't it? So that is what he's saying. Whatever you give, just do a namaskar. That's good enough. In kayana bacha manasacha prafi bhavanina aradhaya. So you do me, treat me as the Lord and surrender to me all the time. Idam cha archanam bandhanam cha annishamapi bhagavata bhagavata dharmanam upalakshanam. Bhagavata dharmanam upalakshanam. So all other ways of meditation on the Lord, Navada Bhakti, is all included here. Tatha cha uktam Sri Bhagavate. So he's now quoting how to connect with the divine because Madhusudana Saraswati was a great Vaishnava. He was a great Krishna Bhakta. He said, okay, Vedanta is fine. Every time I look at Lord Krishna, my eyes are filled with tears. So he was a great combination of bhakti and jnana. Sravanam kirtanam vishnoho smaranam padasevanam archanam bandhanam dasyam sakhyam atmanivedanam. Sravanam, so thinking about God all the time, meditating on Him. Kirtanam, praying and taking His name. Vishnu, His name. Smaranam, remembering. Padasevanam, doing puja and archanam, the puja and bandhanam, have that fire ritual. Dasyam, treating yourself as his slave. Sakhyam, treating yourself as his friend. then you are doing Atmanivedanam, telling him what's there in your heart. Iti Pungsar Pita Vishnu. And these are the ways in which the devotees surrender themselves to the Lord. Bhakti Chen Navalakshana. So all these bhaktis are Navada Bhakti. Kriyate Bhagavati Yadha Nishchita Rupena in the Lord. Tana Tanmaye Dhita Muttamam. And then, they sort of benefit in a wonderful way. And I treat, they are the Uttama, that is the ultimate Aradhana. And I think that is the best way they are meditating on me. Etacha Bhakti Rasayana Vakyatam Vistarani, saying if you are more interested, you read my Bhakti Rasayana. He has written a beautiful text there. Evam Sada Bhagavata Dharmanushthanena Mai Anuraga Utpatya Manamanaha. Then you be all the time, hold me in your minds. San Mam Bhagavantam Vasudevam Eva Esyasi Prapsyasi. Then you will get me ultimately by meditating on me. Vedanta Vakya Janitena Madhabodhena. This Vasudeva is not about, the person, the Vasurivada. He's talking about the Vasudevam Sarvamiti. You have heard the Vedanta Vakyas, then meditate on me, then you are liberated. Yataha priyosime, because you're so dear to me. Priyasya pratarana na uchita evaiti bhava. I'm not going to cheat you. I shall not drop you from my attention. Satyante prarabdha karmunante sati. And then when all your prarabdhas are coming to an end, mama eva ishyati. At the end, of course, you will get it. Anubada apekshaya vishwasa sadadhya prayojanam prathamam vakhyanam eva shriyah. So whatever is mentioned first, that is ultimate. Anena yat purva muktam, whatever is mentioned earlier, yataha prabriti bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim bindati manabah. This already has mentioned earlier. Okay, and therefore he's saying the people doing their own karmas who do my archana and they get that siddhi. What is that siddhi? That jnana nishtha. And then they are able to meditate on me. Iti tad vakhyatam mat savdena ishwaratva prakatanat. So then that mat, that whenever he's saying that you be mat chitta, is referring to Ishwara. So that is how the verse number 65 is over. The 66 is hell of a lot of dialogue on that, because this is the end of Bhagavad Gita's dialogue, and we will do that tomorrow, where he says that you drop all the dharmas and the ultimate thing is surrender to me. What does that mean, and what is the interpretation of it? And we'll take that up tomorrow. We've just crossed the timeline, so I'll stop here. Any questions, or we'll do the Santi mantras, and then we'll catch up again tomorrow. I'm putting an end to the YouTube.